Hello. There's a lot going on in the news at the moment. Obviously, this atrocity in Las Vegas has taken up a lot of the news attention. I won't say too much about that, but the latest is that the shooter has been described as a loner and a bit of an oddball. Uh, but there's no indication so far that he had any sort of strong political views. Anyway, it's ongoing. The latest is 60 people killed, the deadliest day in the United States since 9/11. What I want to talk about in this video is the subject of what I consider to be far right Indian nationalism and why I'm tired of the arrogance and hypocrisy that I see. Now, an important disclaimer, I always try to do this in videos like this so that I'm not misunderstood. I'm well aware that there will be people who hear what they want to hear, so be it. But the disclaimer is that this video is not about all Indians. I believe India is a great country. I hope to visit one day, and yeah, if you choose to take it personally, so be it. But these are things I feel need to be said. So I'm going to read out a bit of an article from a BBC news report. I'm well aware that the people I'm talking about think that the BBC has it in for them. They get very defensive about that, not unlike Chinese nationalists, but there you go. If this report is false, then the BBC, people can say it's false and claim why it's false and, make an official complaint to the BBC. But until they can prove it is false, then they cannot attack the BBC for doing their job as a news agency reporting the news. This is the report. I'm going to read out the first few lines. A Dalit, formerly untouchable man, was beaten to death in the western Indian state of Gujarat, allegedly for watching people dance as they celebrated the Hindu festival of Dussehra. 8 men have been arrested for attacking the 21-year-old on Sunday, police told BBC Gujarati. Some Dalits were beaten up for sporting moustaches in the state last week. Despite laws to protect them, discrimination remains a daily reality for India's 200 million Dalits. The victim, identified as Jayesh Solanki, was watching a performance of Garba, a traditional dance, with his cousins when a man approached them, according to the police complaint lodged by Mr. Solanki's cousin Prakash. So this is just the latest example of extreme anti-Dalit discrimination, violence. Obviously, the culprits have been arrested, that's good, and it is good that there are anti-discrimination laws. But the fact that this cultural mindset still prevails in the year 2017 is tragic and very sad. But what I want to address specifically is how there are Indian nationals out there who spend all their time bitching about the British whilst they're in denial that problems like this even occur. I saw comments like, "We have had caste culture for 5,000 years. We will have it for another 5,000 years." The person posting that was clearly okay with this. And he said BBC should mind their own business. Well, I hate to break it to you, but if you want to boast about being the world's biggest democracy, then you have to accept scrutiny. India is not a hermit kingdom. India is not North Korea. So if you are the world's biggest democracy, then why are you frightened of scrutiny? But to be honest, I'm a little bit fed up of their hypocrisy because, like I said, they spend a lot of time demonizing the British. India's been independent for 70 years, but they spend a lot of time still, every time, especially if it's the BBC, talking about how evil the British were under the Raj, despite the fact a lot of the legacy of modern India comes directly from the British, the system of government, railways, etc. They're direct legacies of the British Empire, whatever way you gloss it over. So I'm tired of the hypocrisy, but there is a profound arrogance, and yes, there is a racism in this ultra nationalist mindset, a racism certainly towards lower castes, but also towards, for example, African people. Um, there has been examples of racial discrimination in Western Indian states. But what bothers me is that they vilify the British, but they won't acknowledge that post independence India hasn't exactly been a beacon of human rights. The Indian Army has not always been exemplary in their conduct, far from it. Certainly in Kashmir, in Nagaland, and other autonomous regions that have been pushing for independence, or at least segments of the populations have, the Indian Army has not exactly behaved with great morality. So, if you're going to vilify the British, take a look in the mirror. But what I take issue with is this arrogant mindset we're above criticism. You know, you can't have it both ways. You can't play the victim and say the British are picking on us whilst boasting about being a superpower. The only reason India is powerful is because of its huge population and its fast economic growth rate. The fact of the matter is, India still has a very long way to go in terms of human rights. There's still crippling poverty. And just like China, the only reason the army is powerful is because of its sheer size. Um, it doesn't, in my opinion, have the professionalism of some other militaries around the world. I certainly don't think it has the professionalism of the British Army. Um, I also feel that we are constantly putting up with insults from Indian nationalists whilst we continue to send millions in aid. I'm starting to take the view if this is a country that can have its own space program, maybe we need to start to argue for a more level playing field. Indian nationals cannot constantly use the empire to kind of make us feel guilty about, oh, well, you can't complain about this because of what the empire done. With independence comes responsibility. India's been independent for 70 years. Now, before anyone misunderstands me, I'm not for a second saying that there are not things that happened in the Raj that we should be ashamed of, that we should acknowledge were bad things, like the Amritsar massacre. That's just one example. There were many others, but those things are well documented in history books and film. I'm talking about the situation today, and I am sick and tired of Indian national arrogance. Um, and this is fanatical. I mean, anyone who takes a different point of view is immediately pounced on. There's a real mob mentality there. Um, and, you know, for all its boasting about being the world's biggest democracy, India actually, freedom of speech in India is under serious threat from this attitude to being anti-national, which basically means anyone who doesn't isn't a fanatical neo-nationalist. It's a very concerning situation, and I believe it has escalated since Narendra Modi came to power. Um, so yeah, I think India is a great country, but next time you want to lecture the British, take a look at your backyard because India is not a glowing example of human rights. It is not a glowing example of transparency, and so long as this sort of shit happens, then you know you cannot take this arrogant view. India is above criticism. China is a communist country, you expect them to say that. But when India is boasting about being a democracy, part of democracy is transparency, which means not getting this defensive nationalist attitude that no one can question us. So we'll leave it there. But that's how I feel. And summed up, I'm tired of the arrogance and the hypocrisy of hardline Indian nationalists. And quite frankly, it makes me wary about visiting India. It makes me think this is quite an intolerant country. And I know it's not. I know there's millions of open minded Indians who know that there are problems. I'm aware of that. But I do feel that this ultra nationalism has been gaining traction in recent years. And that's very sad.